1, 2, 3. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Life Podcast, your go-to podcast for all things entrepreneurship, accounting, and lifestyle. I'm your host, Katey Maddux, and today I have Rachel Joy with me. Hi. Rachel is a fitness coach, cover model, business owner, and influencer. In addition to running ladies boot camps, Rachel hosts pop-up workout classes and fitness events at various venues, gyms, and hotels all over South Florida. After starting her first company in 2017, Rachel started her second company, a resistance band business, during COVID, and her third company, her spray tanning business, in 2022. As a content creator, Rachel has mastered transitioning her social media following into a profitable business. You've done so many things. I'm so impressed with you already.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So it's actually funny how the whole thing started because growing up, starting from college, I really didn't care about Instagram or care about followers or anything like that. But my social media, growing my following over time is actually what got me all my work opportunity today and all my accomplishments. But it started off, I was just a party girl in college. I was a host and I interviewed DJs and I went to different tailgates and parties at FSU. Go Noles, all my Noles out there. And I started getting just the party people following me. And that was actually how I started growing my following, just being a spokesmodel on campus. And then I started dating someone who was a trainer and he had a big following. So we started doing the little fit couple workouts, started growing my following, still unintentional. And then I decided one day to take on a challenge, and I'm super competitive. And it was for a month long where you just really clean up your diet, you work out, do like a weight training competition. And I've always been super skinny. I have an ectomorph body type, which means it's very hard to put on weight. But I took on the challenge, cold turkey, just had chicken, broccoli, rice every day. Started seeing
sounds rough.
It was horrible actually, but I'm so competitive that I didn't even care what I was eating. I just had to win. And I saw my body transform from being super skinny to being toned, having abs, started posting the transformation. And it was basically a ripple effect after that where I started having a passion for fitness. But it was more of I won the competition, so I was happy about that. But the results showed I felt healthier, and there were so many people that were reaching out to me that were inspired, that asked me how I did what I did and started following my journey. And I started kind of transitioning from party people following me to people that were actually interested in health and wellness. And I had no idea what I was doing. So they were just following whatever I was saying. And I was usually on YouTube just watching random workouts, and a lot of the stuff I was doing was probably very incorrect at the time, but that's how—
Gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, so that's how it started. It was just kind of like a ripple effect from that.
Because you have a pretty large following, like over 250,000 followers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, so I feel like the turning point of turning the social media into a business was over time. I was just constantly posting my fitness pictures, workout videos. I started tagging a lot of brands and companies that I wasn't even working with, but that I wanted to work with.
Yeah.
And over time, a couple of them reached out to me because I was just tagging them and everything, which I feel like is really important for anybody that is wanting to work with companies, to tag the company that you want to work for, even if it seems so out of reach. I was tagging Nike, I was tagging Adidas, I was tagging all the big brands. And in the beginning, nothing was really coming from it. But over time, I did have big brands reach out to me and say that they saw me tagging them. They saw my posts that I was creating for them with their products that I actually bought myself, or I was wearing because I bought it myself. And they noticed me. So that's kind of how it started, as being a brand ambassador for different companies where I wasn't getting paid, but they were sending me free products, free clothes. You have to work for free in the beginning until people know your value. And then once they know your value, I was working with BPI Sports for 4 years. The first 2 years, it was not paid.
Wow.
And once you get to that level of here's my value, here's what I bring to the table, and I've been working with you guys for this amount of time, it's time to get paid.
Yeah.
They don't want to lose you because they have, you've been an athlete with them.
Now they love you.
Exactly. But it takes time, and there's so many people that quit or they don't want to work for free, and so they don't get any work, or they're working with such tiny brands and it's not going to bring them any revenue. It's not going to take them to the next level because they don't want to do anything for free. And sometimes in the very beginning with social media, you have to do a lot of collaborating.
Right. I think that's so key. So many people think like, oh, I don't want to work for free. I know my value. And it's like, you can know your value as a person and as a business owner, but still kind of have to put in the time. You know what I mean? Like, you still have to kind of put in your hours. You have to put in your work and like let people come to the conclusion of your value on their own. You can't just be like, I'm valuable. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a both and, conundrum of like knowing your worth,
right?
But also being like, started from the bottom, now we here. You know what I mean? Like, kind of crank
putting
your
the
way
work
up.
in. That's the thing is, you can't. Yes, everybody's valuable.
Right.
You can't like say anything wrong because everybody's so sensitive these days. But how hard are you working to reach those goals, to work with those brands? Because there's people working way harder than you. And I worked extremely hard to even get to where I'm at right now with my accomplishments that I didn't think that I could ever achieve, because I don't have the body type to walk the runway. I don't have, I've never been in a bodybuilding competition to be on a fitness magazine cover. I don't have what the standard models have, that society has created.
Right.
But I also am a go-getter, and I stick with my goals and my vision, and I manifest and I pray and I make it happen. So it actually makes me mad when people say that, oh, well, you got lucky, or you have connections, or because it's not true.
Right.
Like, even the lifestyle that I live right now, living in Miami and having my apartment and everything, is because I worked hard. Nothing in life comes easy. It's not just luck or connections, or it's working your way to the top.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, you started this business in 2017. So it's not like we're in 2023. Like, that's 6 years of grinding. It's not like you're not an overnight success. I think so many people, see people on social media and they think they're just an overnight success because they didn't see the grinding that was happening behind the scenes when you're in that hidden season of like, hey, I'm working until 2 a.m. and I'm barely sleeping and I'm so stressed and I'm so tired and I'm wearing all the hats. And social media doesn't see that side because it's like, I'm not going to, some people do, but I don't really record myself like working super late or when I feel like shit and I'm working anyway.
Hey guys, it's 3 a.m. I'm still up. It's like,
they don't see that, like there's a grind behind any successful entrepreneur. There's been a grind behind it, and like you just walked on New York Fashion Week. Was that your first New York Fashion Week?
It was.
How was it?
It was so exciting. It was so much fun. I have done some runway shows for the past 5 years for Miami Swim Week. Even doing those shows, it's just crazy how much times have changed. But and like the body types have changed, and there used to be a very high height requirement. Now they look more at social media because they know that their swimwear brand is going to get more exposure depending on like your following or where your following is based. And even working with like the different brands leading up to New York Fashion Week have all just been a huge blessing. And I don't even take it lightly because I know that I would reach out to those brands year after year. Like one designer in particular, Lila Nicole, I started off, this was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I was a brand ambassador for her show, and I would see the models and I was just like, I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to be on the stage walking for her. And all of her models were super tall and just
6'2",
beautiful,
Kendall
and
Jenners.
And I said, no, I'm gonna do that. Like, I know my value, I know what I bring to the table, and I'm gonna make it happen. And it was year after year, reaching out to her, commenting, getting her swimwear, actually falling in love with it. You can't just reach out to a brand and expect them to hire you or sign you as an athlete when you haven't even tried their products or you don't even live and walk the brand. Whoa, it's getting intense over here. But yeah, over time, I just realized that there's a turnaround depending on how much work you're willing to put in. And all the designers that I walked for over the years, now there's girls that reach out to me saying, how do you get involved with Swim Week? Like, how do you know about the castings? And I'm able to help others. And there's a lot of girls in Miami that don't do that. They try to keep everything a secret. They don't want to tell other girls about where the castings are because they don't like competition.
Yep.
It's very competitive. But something that makes me stand out from the rest is that I want to be able to help other girls.
Yeah.
I want to show you how I learned to do my runway walk. And these are the casting calls I go to. And there shouldn't be a competition because no matter what you look like, the designer's going to like you or not. It doesn't really matter. But then there was a scout that saw me for like Art Basel, and it like led to, you know, New York Fashion Week and all these different things. So it was the first time walking for that. And that was such a huge opportunity that I've never even gone to a casting for New York Fashion Week. I did think in the back of my mind for a long time, that's just not possible. Not because I don't think I can, but just because all the models, the height requirement is 5'10". You have to be skinny, like flat chested. It's just very different.
Right.
But I still had a little bit of hope. And I think that in my life, prayer is what works. And prayer, manifesting, and taking action, not just manifesting and hoping everything's going to work out, but actually doing the action steps so that it does work out and happen. And, you know, and now I can tell all the girls that look up to me on social media that you guys can walk in New York Fashion Week too. Like it's not about the height requirement. It's about the person and how hard you work, knowing your value. And that's what the designer saw in me. And she also said that I was really nice and had a kind heart, and that spoke a lot of value with what kind of models she wanted to pick for her show.
Wow. So. I love that last piece. We just had a guest yesterday, I don't know if you saw that one, on, and she's a fashion photographer. And so she photographs a lot of models. And one of the things that she said too that really like stood out to her is like, she's like, the models, you know, a lot of times in the modeling industry, like they don't get treated well. You know, people are not, they look like they have this glamorous lifestyle. But really, if you've ever, my degree's in fashion. I've been to multiple fashion weeks. And
me too.
Like, I don't think I knew that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. But, you know, what happens kind of behind the curtain is not always so nice. You know, it's not always beautiful, the things that happen to these models. And so just like bringing that sense of like integrity and care and love for people, like, people discount that, you know, maybe in the past it was about just how you looked, but I think that society has changed, and the way that you are on and off camera matters so much more now. And I think that's such a beautiful thing that people are like, you know what, I want to work with you because you're a person of integrity, not because you're 5'10", you know, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And for people who are influencers to also carry that, and to be like, you know what, I'm going to push that new model. I'm going to push that even in the fashion industry, being a good, kind-hearted person matters, and being an influencer, you know, helping other people matters. You know, I think is so beautiful. And that's one of the things like I love about you is that you're such a person of integrity. And that's what this podcast is about, is how do we showcase and help add value by bringing on people who are integrous and people not just of excellence. Excellence is amazing. We want them to be excellent and profitable and all the things that a good business owner is, but also like someone who is kind and someone who loves others. And I know one thing that you're passionate about that I'm also passionate about is like mission work and, you know, helping other people and like having a greater purpose, like the business is kind of the vehicle to get you to be able to walk out your greater purpose. So do you want to like talk a little bit about that? I know it's something you're super passionate about.
Yeah. So I agree with what you said, where I just feel like my purpose in this life isn't just about followers or status, which is very common, especially living in Miami. It's very competitive. It's hard. And just kind of, overcoming that stereotype of influencers in Miami, models in Miami, and showing that it's not just about the money. It's not just about the accomplishments, but my purpose is to turn around and use my influence and my platform to help and bless others. And I actually grew up on the mission field. My parents were missionaries. My brother was born in Lima, Peru. My sister was born in Costa Rica. And I would definitely say that my parents were my biggest role models. They lived such a selfless life, and they lived to serve God and serve others. And that to me is success.
Yeah.
It's not, as soon as you are helping others and putting somebody else before your own needs, that's when you are truly happy. And so now, just years later, so I grew up moving around a lot, probably more than a military child, with my parents' jobs and everywhere that they were. My dad was starting churches. And now, just fast forwarding years later, me not moving around because I have to, but actually deciding to go and do, help others overseas myself. My passport was expired for 10 years. I didn't do any missions. I definitely had a period of time where it was all about me. And I was in a toxic relationship, and I didn't really care about anybody else. I was just kind of focused on myself and my career, and went through a lot of insecurities, and breaking free from all that, breaking free from toxic relationships and unhealthy people in my life that didn't serve any purpose, and surrounding myself with positivity, people that are going to uplift me instead of belittling me, and finding that my purpose isn't in self, but my purpose is in God and helping others. That was kind of my turning point, and even starting my businesses and reaching success in my eyes. So I was able to go to Lima, Peru, and Bogota, Colombia, and speak to the women's prison with my dad. And even though, so cool. And I should know Spanish fluently because I was born overseas and my dad's fluent. Unfortunately, I don't. It's more like Spanglish. So my dad...
The national language of Miami.
Exactly, yeah. You always know when someone's from Miami. They start talking like this. Pero like my dad, he was... you know when someone's from Miami.
Yeah.
So he was... interpreting everything for me. He was my translator, and it was funny because I was walking the women through some exercises, because even in a prison, you can either stay in there and be depressed and die sooner, or you can exercise and move your body and still be healthy, even while you're serving your years. Mm-hmm. And so that was something I talked about, was being healthy from the inside out. And I shared with them. But it was funny because I told my dad, if I mess up on anything I say, just say something in Spanish. Mix it up, say something, because they don't know what I'm saying in English. None of them spoke English. But then I started saying, and my dad is going to demonstrate the squat for you. And then I know he would change it because he wouldn't do a squat. And then I kept saying, Dad, why aren't you saying what I'm saying? He goes, because I'm not going to do that. But it was funny. And it's just, I feel like it's just so honoring to my parents, even that now it's a decision that I want to make, not because I'm forced and because I have to move with them, but because I want to go and serve others. And now I realize that my platform, my social media, my following, my accomplishments, I can use as a voice, and others will listen. And it's not just in a superficial way, but I was able to speak to different schools, and I felt like they really gravitated to everything I was saying because of my status. But then I could share my testimony, and I can talk about how I'm just like you, and I was in high school, and I went through the same struggles, and there's no reason why you can't get to where I'm at in a couple years.
Yeah.
So it's just like really spreading that light and positivity and something different that they don't see an influencer in the USA talking about, or being relatable, because you don't see it on Instagram.
Right. I feel like you're such a carrier of hope. I feel like one of the things that you carry is that like you're not just successful, but when you tell your story, you're actually like giving people this gift of hope, where it's like, I went through that too, and this is what I've built, and I want to share like not just the logistics of like how I've built it, but this is how I can just inspire, you know what I mean? And you're giving them hope. Like this person who oftentimes in other countries, as people who travel, it's people put successful business owners or influencers in the US on such a pedestal, like we're so blessed. Like even when I'm overseas and I tell people I have a business, they're like, oh my gosh, you have a business? Like, you know what I mean? Here it's so normal. Mm-hmm. But in other countries,
everyone's
it's not, right? Especially in Miami, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's an entrepreneur. But when you go overseas or when you go to other countries and you're going to places that are impoverished, places where there's domestic violence, where there's rape, where there's trafficking, where there's all these things, and you're like, I'm going to humble myself to come spend time with you, like it's just like I get the goosebumps because it's so hope giving, and I think that it's so fulfilling too for entrepreneurs. Like I just encourage everybody who's watching this, like if you've built something in the States, like first of all, you're so blessed that you have the opportunity to build a business in the States. But if you've built something in the States, like use your platform to give hope to other people, like travel, speak, volunteer, like don't just use your status for the sake of having followers or for the sake of having status, like take that status and take that platform and find something you're passionate about. Like I'm passionate about trafficking. I just got back from a mission trip on trafficking, and I'm passionate about Asia. So that's where I go. Like find a place that you're passionate about, find a philanthropy, a category, a cause that you're passionate about, and take that platform and use it and be a carrier of hope for people. I think that's something that's just so, it's so special, and not enough people do it, but it's so easy.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I feel like, and it doesn't necessarily just have to be an influencer. I feel like anyone that has, like built a career, built a business, it's not necessarily all about you having 100K followers or feeling less than if somebody else does. That's where you really have to look internally and know your own value and know that it's not about followers. It's about you focusing on yourself, and that you still have a message to share. You can still go and bless others, and to be content with the place that you're in right now, because you have no idea what you can accomplish years from now. You have no idea who in your circle or who you've met in your life right now you could be working with years from now. And so I always talk about choosing joy, and it's my middle name. And so I use it for everything, just because in the workplace, when you're with friends, when you're in anything that you're doing in life, choosing to have joy and projecting that joy on other people makes a big difference. Being able to impact somebody else, even in like the smallest way of, when I'm at a photo shoot, the guy behind the camera or the assistant, I'm asking them if they need water or if they want a Celsius. I always have Celsius with them. And they're so
sponsored athlete life.
Discount code. I always have like Celsius and snacks, and they're just so surprised. And you have no idea the impact you can leave on people, or how horrible of a day they could have had, or that they're escaping from, just by choosing to have joy and to smile and to spread a little bit of light, especially being in Miami, and me being in the modeling and fitness industry.
Yeah.
Tangent.
It's a heavy place.
But going back to what you were saying, even my brothers, I look up to them, and my whole family, I feel like, is just very entrepreneur spirit. My dad has his own business. My brothers have their own business. Everybody has a hard workers.
You can have a business and you can have a business.
Yeah, we're all hard workers. And I know that we definitely get it from my parents. I mean, in high school, my dad said, you want to go to college? Go write essays. You're left-handed? There's a left-handed scholarship. There's a Hispanic scholarship. There's a scholarship for everything. You have to actually go out. And sometimes we would be writing so many essays. We'd write 10 to 15 essays, but then we get one of them a scholarship and a couple $1,000s. And he just taught us, ingrained in us at a very young age, to work hard if we want something in life. So my brothers, they go on the mission trips too. One of my brothers is an American Ninja Warrior, so that's something that he's able to use. And
like the TV show?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
fun.
Yeah. So that's kind of his thing, where on the mission trips, he can show the guys different calisthenics and the things that he did on American Ninja Warrior. And one of my other brothers, they both played college football, so they would do football camps for all the guys. And it's just really using your passion and doing it in a way because you actually want to bless somebody else, and you're not asking for anything in return but to help them and to be there if they have questions or they need help with anything. And because it's just something very different. And they always say, why are you guys doing this? Like, why are you here? It just speaks so much volume and gives yourself more value as a person.
Yeah. And it's so fulfilling. Like, like making money can honestly feel kind of empty. Like, what good is having a bunch of money if you don't have a purpose,
Right.
And I think just having a business is so exhausting.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're wearing so many hats, and having that like mission and that vision of like, I have the business, and maybe the business is the end game, or maybe the business is the vehicle, and both are okay, but having that like the why behind the why, you know, like, yeah, okay, the business has a why, it has a mission and vision, of course, but it's like, what is the personal why behind the business why?
Right.
And like, when you can get to the root of that for people, like, they'll do anything, they'll do anything for you. And just helping other people get to their why is so fulfilling. And then it's like, I don't need to get to my why because I'm so fulfilled by helping them get to their why.
Yeah. And they're always going to remember how you make them feel. Yeah. So they're not going to remember who was on the magazine cover years ago or who walked for who in New York Fashion Week, but they're going to remember how that person made them feel. Yeah. Which I feel like is the most important thing, because I remember over the years specific people in my life and how they made me feel, and I have no idea where they are in life right now. Yeah. So
totally. Pivoting a little bit into more like business realm. What would you say to entrepreneurs who are like, I obviously have social media. I think if you have a business, you probably have social media, right? But like, growing to 250,000 followers is something that I feel like so many people aspire to, but it's not just having followers for the sake of having followers, right? It's like, how do you convert those followers into paying customers? I think at the end of the day, that's why we have social media. Right. But like, how was there like a turning point for you, or something that you learned that you were like, and this is when my business went from just having followers to being a profitable business? And I know you have, oh my gosh, what's it called? Oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. The guy that helps you.
Videographer? Or
no, the other guy.
Agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, like, you have an
woman.
agent. Okay, girl. Your agent.
Yes.
I guess it's like a two-part question. Like, was there kind of a turning point there? And what would be your tip for entrepreneurs who are like, I'm not there yet, but I want to grow my social for the purpose of growing my business, whatever niche they're in? And then how does your agent kind of help you fulfill those goals, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so I feel like the most important thing in having a business online and turning it into paying customers is trust. I feel like there's so many influencers that just post random things to get paid. There's, just a teeth whitening, fit tea, random weight loss products that could work or could not work, but you only see an influencer post it one time, so you know it's a paid post. And I feel like those kind of influencers, it's almost cringing when everything's an advertisement. Yeah. I feel like being really authentic and to yourself and to your own brand and building trust is what has helped me. And this seems so simple. So I used to be super platinum blonde, and I was blonde all through college. I had extensions, and I just was kind of looked like a Playboy kind of girl. I mean, it didn't matter what I wore. It's just that that's how people view somebody that has white platinum hair and they're really fit. And I kind of lost respect from a lot of companies because I was only getting companies reaching out to me that wanted somebody that looked super sexy. And I wasn't, I was kind of just in this lost space. And that was also the same time period of being in a toxic relationship and going through insecurities. And so over time, I went back my natural hair color. I took the extensions out. Nothing wrong with extensions, but now my hair is actually as long as the extensions. So it grew during COVID. But it was kind of like just going back to the Rachel that, my normal hair, like being natural. I became relatable and I started growing my women following. And it was so weird because I thought, how does hair make a difference? But it wasn't really the hair. It was the companies I was posting. It was how I was branding myself. And back then I was branding myself in a more like seductive way without realizing it. My parents realized it. And I was just kind of blinded at the time. I just, thought like, oh, you guys are just old school. And, over time now, just cutting away the old Rachel and being closer to my parents and my family and knowing what I want in life and being a role model has just changed my appearance and how I dress and how I want to present myself. And I feel like back to building trust with everybody online, I became more relatable when I started talking about real things that were going on. I started showing behind the scenes of the struggle, and I started sharing the mission trips I was going on and answering everybody's questions in my DMs. I wasn't charging them. I wanted to help them, giving advice, and just bottom line, being relatable. I feel like there's so many influencers that they have a business and the business could be great, but when they aren't relating with their consumer and every single post is something that's advertising and it's not just giving value and advice because they want to, because they care about everyone that's following them, it just like, it makes a big difference. Yeah. Once people saw me posting for the same company over and over and over, they started asking questions. They started saying, wow, it must really work because she keeps posting about it. She's so passionate about it. And I think that building trust is the most important thing of all, is building trust with the people that are following you. No matter how long it takes, just being really raw and authentic. And like you were saying earlier, like, we're such perfectionists. It's hard to just post something without making sure it looks perfect. And something that I've had to learn over time is that I actually do get a lot of engagement when I am talking about things I'm struggling with, when I'm talking about anxiety, when I'm talking about insecurities, when I literally talk about my acne and that I had to see a dermatologist, and that was a huge struggle for me for years. And just being open about it online to a huge platform is super scary, but you start developing trust, and people that feel like they can relate to somebody, they want what they have. And then it became very smooth with anything I'm posting. People want to follow that person. People want to see what I'm doing. They want to check out that restaurant because they're a fan of me. It doesn't matter about the followers. Like they know the real Rachel. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So with an agent, she has been my agent for a couple years now. And I love her because before she came into my life, if she's watching, shout out to Annette. So before I had her, I didn't realize my value. And this was over time because I was with a company and they were paying me very low pay. And I know that I bring a lot to the table. So when I'm with a company that I'm signed with, I'm giving them ideas. I even helped to design their workout attire for their company. And I felt like I was just giving them so many ideas that they were using, but my pay wasn't going up. I was still getting paid very low. I didn't know that I was getting paid very low. I thought, oh, this is normal, until I got an agent. And she said, do you not know your value? How are you getting paid that much a month? Like, you should be making this much. So we had to talk about it, and I had a good relationship with them. And so that was the hard thing was, well, I don't want them to get mad at me if I don't work for them. And so we had an email that I listed everything that I brought to the table with them, everything I've done for the company. And I said that going forward, that this is my value. This is what I need to be making. And if you can't match that, then I can't work for you any longer. And they couldn't match it, even though they do have enough money in the company. And so it just showed that what my agent was saying was true, and that even if it's a friend, you have to know your value. You can't just I don't even know where I'm going at with that one, but like you yes, I said in the beginning about like working for free and collaborating, but also knowing when you have worked so hard over the years for a company that you have to know when to raise the bar, raise the standard, and say, this is my value now, so you can match it, or another company will. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't working with the company anymore. And then a couple months later, she calls me, and there was another company that was even better, and they offered me double the amount that I was making with the previous company. And so just having an agent has really helped me so that I don't have to talk about money. I hate talking about myself to a company, and that's what an agent is for. She's there to say, Rachel does this. These are her videos. She's amazing with her content creating. She's so creative. She's on the cover.
It's like a hype woman.
That's exactly what it is. It's like you don't want to talk about yourself to a company and say, oh, I've done all these things, because it just makes you feel kind of weird.
Yeah, it's kind of cringe.
Mm-hmm, and I don't like saying, oh, well, I need to be paid this amount. Like, I don't even like talking about money to companies, because I definitely was the nice girl for a long time, where I just kind of was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. Like, oh, I'm very underpaid, but I'll do it anyways, just because I was trying to work my way to the top. But then once I got to the level of having an agent, she really taught me a lot. And now I'm like, no, like, I am going to make this amount. You can talk to my agent. And
so official.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to my people.
Talk to my agent. And so she handles a lot of, she's helped me get a lot of really big partnerships throughout the years. With social media, and especially during COVID, there were a lot of companies that didn't know what to do because the studios were locked down. Everything's on lockdown. So everything was influencers creating the content. Yeah. And she got me a lot of work. But she also really raised the bar and raised my prices, my rates, which I wouldn't have done, but she got them. And I said, wow, like, I can't believe I'm making that much for this post. So I feel like there is a lot of benefits in having an agent, just having somebody talk for you and email for you and do all the dirty work, and then say, all right, you got the deal.
Here's the money.
Yeah. And it keeps things more organized.
Oh, I bet. Anytime that you have somebody else like handling all the little things, it's like such a blessing.
Yeah.
Logistically, like, one, at what point is it like beneficial to have an agent? Like, is there a certain follower count, or is there a certain time, like once you have done this, and then secondly, how does she get paid? Like, do you pay her a fee? Does she take a commission off the top? Like, what does that look like? I feel like so many people are like, yeah, that's great. How do I do that?
Yeah. So if she brings me, a company, a partnership, that they're interested in working with me, then she gets 20%. If I bring her a company, she gets 10%.
Okay.
So, but there's also a lot of really big companies that it's really hard to find on your own. They go to agencies because agencies have their roster of athletes for these big companies to choose from for commercial work, for a lot of different opportunity. And then they can choose, okay, I like these 3 people. And then the agent will talk up those 3 people and be the hype woman and talk about the success and why they would be a great fit for that brand. It just saves so much work. I feel like it's not so much about having a certain amount of followers, because even in the agency, there are people that have way less followers, but they are very passionate about their brand, whether they're a vegan chef and there's brands that could be very fitting for them that wouldn't be fitting for me because I'm not vegan.
Right.
So I feel like when you are very successful and you have a niche and you're not all over the place where you're kind of, dabbling in this and this and this, and it looks kind of chaotic. When you have a niche and you're sticking with it, I feel like you can really have an agent anytime. Mm-hmm. There are definitely scammers out there too, though. So I feel like if there's any agent or agency that's trying to ask for money up front, it's probably a scam and they're just trying to take your money, because any real agent that really wants to work with you and, you have to trust each other, they should be taking a cut once the brand deal is signed. So
nuggets.
Yeah.
Keys to the kingdom.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, before I had her, I pretended to be my own agent because it just looks more official. Mm-hmm. And so I just pretended that I was the agent, and I...
Thank you for calling Rachel Joy. This is Rachel's agent. How may I help you?
Yeah, no. So I had a different email address. And so when a company would reach out to me on direct message, first of all, I'm very authentic with who I work with. I don't just work with any random brand that reaches out to me. I'm very particular about loving the brand and getting the product ahead of time and liking it. If I don't like the product, I'm not going to just post for the money. And that's something that my agent, that's one of the reasons why she wants to work with me, is because I'm very genuine about what I'm posting. So she sends me a website and says, hey, this brand is interested in working with you. Check out the whole website. Let me know if you are on board with it or not, if it aligns with your brand. Because it's just, if you're just doing things for the money, then people aren't going to trust you. And you can kind of tell when things are kind of just all over the place. Back to, I don't even remember what the question is. It's always the tangents.
Yeah, we're here for the tangents.
Yeah, the tangents.
I think that's really good advice, because that's not something that a lot of people talk about. Like, not many people talk about having agents, you know what I mean? Like, not many people will get into like the weeds of like, this is what helped me. You know, I think we've talked about that. Like, vulnerability is so important. And there's so many people who are doing the thing, but they won't tell you how they did the thing. And it's like, what value are you if you're going to do it, but you won't tell people how you did it, you know? And that's why I love having a podcast, because I get to interview people and be like, this is how they did it. You can do it too. You know, here's some nuggets you can take home and go do yourself. Like, that's what I want, is to add value to entrepreneurs, you know, and you don't have to be in a certain niche to want to grow your following, and you don't have to be an influencer to need a following. Like, if you have a business, you need people to look at it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just sales. Like, the word influencer, it's just sales. It's a hot term. It's a hot button, but that's what they're doing. They're influencing people to make decisions about how they spend their money. Right. You know what I mean? And so being vulnerable is so rare and so important. So I really commend you for just kind of giving your secrets out. I think it's so helpful.
And I also feel like, just like I was saying, if somebody doesn't want to be tied down with an agent, just be an agent, you know, be your own agent. It's just the whole idea, have your brother be your agent. Like, it's the whole idea of having a company think that you are more professional and saying, you know, here is my email. I'll have my agent reach out to you. It could be you. But at the same time,
make it till you make it. You still got to make it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just being able to hold yourself at a higher value and talk yourself up without sounding prideful.
Yeah.
So it's a little trick.
Yeah. Love it. From the standpoint of like owning a business, because you have multiple businesses, right? Your fitness business, you have your retail, you sell resistance bands, and then you have your spray tanning company. Like, is there something that you've learned in business that has kind of helped you even grow your other businesses? Like for me, like building my second business is so different from building my first business. And it's not because they're completely different niches. It's just because I've learned so much building one business that building a second business in comparison has been a breeze. Still learning as I go, but like everything, the first time everything is trial and error.
Oh,
right?
100%.
And then it's like, okay, now I learned, like, I'm never building a website again by myself.
Yeah,
never. I hate building websites. I'm not good at it.
It's so stressful.
Like, it's so stressful. Now my VAs build my websites. Like, I haven't built a website. The last 3 websites I made, I did not design them. Like, I just don't have the patience for it. You know,
my last business doesn't even have a website.
Yeah.
And I was told by actually my siblings, my brothers who are entrepreneurs too, they said, you don't need a website for your tanning business. Your advertisement is your Instagram. Yeah. I was like, okay,
great.
Done. I know, especially because I'm not really selling something that can be sent worldwide or anything. Right. It's a service that is in person. I have to go to them. They have to come to me. And really, I have my platform to advertise, and it's working. So
So what would be like your tip for entrepreneurs in terms of just building a business? Like, what's something that you've learned that you're like, you don't have to learn this the hard way because I learned it for you?
Well, I feel like I'm still learning. That's the thing. It's always a process. And when I first started, I asked my dad a lot of questions. I feel like it's also important to surround yourself around people that you want to be like. Yeah. And when you're just around empty conversations and gossip and, you know, people that are not going to elevate your life or bring anything valuable, it's not going to do anything for your life. Yeah. So that was something that I did. Asked my dad a ton of questions. I didn't know how to make an LLC. Like, I didn't know how to do anything. Like, I was just starting from ground zero during COVID when everybody's just sitting around. And I said, no, like, I have to make money. Like, I need to, if the time, you know, I never have time to do anything. I'm always so busy. All of a sudden COVID happens. Now I have time. There's no excuse. I can watch TV or start a business. Yeah. And
I love that. Yeah. Watch TV or start a business. Yes.
I'll work on the business. Yeah. And so it was something but I was also so excited. I was so passionate about it, but not being afraid to ask questions. Like, I asked my dad so many questions. Obviously he's my dad, but I also asked other entrepreneurs questions that were in my life, in my circle. And, you know, I feel like everybody has something you can learn from. Right. and to not act like you're better than everyone else, or, okay, I'm an entrepreneur, and you think you have to have everything together, and you don't want to ask questions because you want everybody to think like your business is doing really well. You don't want to tell anyone it's crumbling or that you're not selling. It's better to just get over the hump and ask people, because there's people that can add value and they've been where you're at and they can help you succeed. So it's kind of taking the pride out of owning a business and asking questions and asking for help. That's what helped me, is, you know, mimicking some of the entrepreneurs that I looked up to. I was looking at resistance band websites. I was trying to see how I could be different from them, but also some of their descriptions I would copy and then change it into my own words. And I just asked a lot of questions to people, and that's like the only way you're going to learn. Yeah. And I'm still learning.
Humility is everything.
Yeah, that's the word. I was like, humbling yourself. I don't know what I said, but humbling yourself. And it's okay to ask for help. Yeah.
And it's so even biblical. Like, it says, you know, those who humble themselves will be exalted. And you don't just have to apply that to like church world, you know, like people who come in humbly, like, you're going to have a platform because people are going to respond to your humility. You know, people are going to feel your vulnerability and they're going to respond and they're going to trust you, you know, and it's like everything that you said kind of adds, it can play on top of each other, right? Like, come in low, be vulnerable, build trust, And that's when you get a platform, and that's when people want to follow you, and that's when your business takes off. Like, what good is having a following if when you're not influencing people to the point that it's actually adding value to them, and two, that you're making a sustainable living? Like, what good is having 100,000 followers if you can't pay your bills? You know what I mean? Like, there's something to be said for, I have to still make money.
Right.
You know? But I kind of love how, like, everything that you said, just, it all plays into being a successful entrepreneur is coming in low, being vulnerable, adding value, building trust, and then you're profitable. You know what I mean? Because you came in with the right intentions, and it's all about heart posture.
Right. And there's so many businesses or, you know, friends that are in the same industry. And even with my spray tanning business, I remember for a long time before starting it, my friend spray tans me. So I just kept thinking, oh, I don't know if I should start it because I don't want her to think I'm competing with her. Right. And it kind of held me back for a little while where I didn't start it because we lived in the same building, and sometimes I would spray tan her clients because I was already certified. And I kept thinking, I want to start my spray tanning business, but I had this fear that she would think that we're competing. So I didn't start it for a while. And then when my Instagram was hacked, it was almost like this perfect opportunity where I wasn't making money, and she reached out and she said, if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. And I brought up the idea. I said, I've been thinking about starting my spray tanning business. I don't want to feel like there's a competition or anything. And she's like, no, there's not. And it's kind of just, like you said, humbling yourself and not feel, asking questions to people you look up to, but not feeling threatened or thinking that you're competing with them, but working together. And usually, unless, you can tell which people are going to be resistant and which people are going to be humble and answer all your questions. And those are the people that everybody loves and they trust because they want to help and they're not trying to gain anything back.
Right.
Yeah, that's why there's like such great motivational speakers that like Tony Robbins and people who want to share and help everybody. And they're not just trying to, keep everything to themselves or act like they're better than everyone else.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to just like surrounding yourself with people like that, and even like coming in low and just saying like, hey, this is my thought, this is what I want to do. How do you feel about it? Like even having the conversation is humble, right? You could have just been like, okay, I started a business and leave her off to think like, oh, what is she trying to do? Mm-hmm. But that's not what happened. Like it's so brave to communicate. It's so brave to bring up the conversation. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then it's on them to choose, am I going to be mature in how I respond? Mm-hmm. Because you came in humbly and you came in with brave communication and you said, this is my idea and I want to bring it to you first. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind. Yeah. And then if they're like, well, you're competing with me, like, they get to choose how they respond and you don't get to control that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. But you know that, like, what I did was humble and kind. Mm-hmm. And I gave you the opportunity to say, like, hey, sure, start the business. Would you mind not doing any spray tans in this building?
Yeah.
Like
I actually ended up moving to Edgewater.
Okay.
So it was like an open door from God in that time where my Instagram was hacked. I didn't know what to do because all of my work and businesses and everything was online. So everything was just at a standstill for a whole month. And that was when it came to me, spray tanning business. And I was living in Edgewater. So I had just moved from Brickell to Edgewater, and it was God's timing. And I did talk to her and say, how do you feel about this? I also want to let you know that I have a million jobs, as you know. So whenever I get to the point where I can't stand people because I'm always out of town, like, I'm just going to give them to you. And it's just the communication and showing that you care about other people's feelings, even though not a lot of people do that. And they just start a business. Right. But, so that you have an open communication and you're, I don't know, trying to like not make anybody else feel like you're competing with them.
Right. It's just caring for people.
Even though everyone's in real estate in Miami.
Literally.
Literally everyone.
Literally. Well, wrapping up, Do you have any like final thoughts or like a one last thing for our entrepreneurs?
Is it Audie that time?
It's tea time, darling.
It's tea time.
It's tea time, darling. Cheers.
I didn't even notice this water was here this whole time. Whew. So I would say that my biggest piece of advice would be, and it sounds so cliche, but to be you, to be yourself and not compare yourself. So the hardest thing for me with social media for many years was the comparisons. When you're comparing your journey to somebody else's, when you're comparing your happiness to someone else's, it's going to lead you down a rabbit hole of depression. And I've been there. And it's just, you're never going to be happy. And so being able to have a business on, everybody has a business online because social media is the biggest form of marketing. But to know that you have to be content in where you're at in that season and be happy with it and not compare yourself to somebody else's journey, someone else's season, maybe somebody that is a couple more years ahead of you with their business, but truly being happy and not letting comparisons steal your joy and steal your passion.
Yeah.
Because it can make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that. So why don't you tell them, like, where can people find you? Obviously on Instagram. What are all your handles?
All my handles. So my main Instagram page is Rachel Joy Fit, featured below. Just assuming you guys are going to put it. And then I have a couple, but there's my workout page for boot camps, pop-up events. It's called Workout with Rach. And then my resistance band business is Rachel Joy Collection. So many. And then my spray tanning business is Tanning Joy. My main account, though, is Rachel Joy Fit, and that's where ideally I post everything. So I feel like that's the best.
That's the one.
They're like, I'm just going to forget everything.
Well, in case you forget them, they'll be in the description. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for taking the time to spend with us. I love you.
for having
It's
me.
like,
I know.
it's been so fun. Even like our pre-podcast chat.
Yeah, I know. We are the ideal, not the ideal. We are the definition of entrepreneurship, where we've tried to have a coffee date for months, and it's just been impossible. And I mean, even like
You're at Fashion Week. I'm in Cambodia. Like, life is so hard.
And I had to reschedule even this podcast. So we're finally here.
Yeah.
And
We made it.
Yes, in the right timing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode of the Entrepreneur Life Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Remember, it's a great day to start a business.